Okay, mashed potatoes are a popular Thanksgiving Day treat, and most people want to know, how can I make some of my favorite Thanksgiving Day things a little bit healthier? So I'm going to show you how to do that, and while I'm doing this recipe, I'll show you some alternatives as well. So while we're using small red potatoes here, you can use russet potatoes, you can use Idaho potatoes, whatever you prefer. What's a serving of potatoes? Does anyone remember? About half a cup, but if you're looking at a potato, it's about the size of a computer mouse. So a lot of us who are trying to eat a little bit healthier, who are trying to do a good job, tend to think, I can't eat potatoes, they're not good for me. But potatoes are good for us. They have a lot of fiber. They also have a lot of potassium. And I always say potatoes are not the problem. The problem is what we do with them. Because what do we do with potatoes typically?
French fries.
We make French fries out of them, right? What else?
Butter.
Chips. So we fry them, we put lots of butter, lots of cheese, lots of bacon. I know my aunt's mashed potatoes have cream cheese and whole, heavy cream, things like that. So right now, all I'm doing is quartering these potatoes. They will boil faster the smaller you cut them up. So one other little trick is you want to make sure that they are about the same size so that they cook around the same, it takes around the same time to cook. So I'm just cutting these up, and if you are trying not to have too many leftovers, you can estimate about 1 small red potato per person. This will yield quite a bit of potatoes. We have in our minds that, because if you compare this to your regular baked potato at a restaurant, it's a lot smaller, right? But it will yield quite a bit. So I'm just sort of lightly putting these potatoes into the water. If I let them clunk, I'm going to get splashed with the hot water, so that's not good. Now that we have our potatoes in here, these are going to take about 10 or 15 minutes, so we can just kind of chit-chat here. We have really good potassium in these potatoes, which helps offset the effects of sodium when we're talking about blood pressure. Potassium is something our bodies do need, so not everything in the potato is unhealthy. Potatoes definitely serve as your carbohydrate source for your meal, right? They don't go in that big veggie section that we're making. They're going to go in the smaller carbohydrate section. Now that the potatoes are boiled, they're soft, and I know that because I just stuck my knife in them as they were boiling, and if I could get my knife through, that means we're ready to mash. So I'm just using a hand masher, and this is going to create more of a smashed potato. So really I'm just pushing down, and always make sure you grab your handle. Now, what's another way you could do this? You can use a hand mixer, and that's going to create more of a creamy mashed potato. So it just really depends on what you like. Some people just like a little bit more dimension to their potatoes, so they're going to use a masher and have them maybe a little bit more chunky. Some people like that decadent kind of creamy texture, so it's really all up to you. So typical mashed potatoes will have what kind of liquid source? Heavy cream, whole milk, something like that. I'm just doing about a half of a cup of skim milk here. And this is actually an organic, non-fat skim milk. So now that I have that in there, I'm just going to stir this up. And I went ahead and I'm doing this in the pan that I cooked them in so that my product stays hot. When I put the cold ingredients in, you'll end up with cold mashed potatoes. You'll end up having to put them back into the microwave. So just stirring these up a little bit, and go ahead and add the rest of my milk, which was just the rest of that half cup. And we'll mash them just a little bit more. So then we're ready for the flavoring. And what's another staple for either mashed potatoes or a baked potato that's white and creamy? Sour cream, right? And anything with that word cream will usually be heavy with saturated fat and cholesterol. So we are actually going to use just a non-fat Greek yogurt rather than sour cream. It actually tastes just like sour cream, and Greek yogurt is so versatile. You can use it for savory purposes, just like what we're doing here. You can use it in your favorite Mexican recipe in place of the sour cream. And then you can turn around and use it as your protein source in a smoothie, sweeten it up for yogurt, a yogurt parfait. But it's very high in protein and those digestive probiotics. So we're adding lots of good protein to these starchy potatoes, which helps lower the rate at which it increases our blood sugar, right? So we're kind of offsetting those carbs at the same time. So my potatoes are getting pretty creamy, and most people need some kind of butter in their potatoes. We are still going to use real butter. We're probably just not going to use as much as maybe you would typically put in. And I found this butter at the store. It's garlic and herbs, so I thought it would add just an extra punch of flavor because we're not adding a lot of salt to these either. So I'm just using about a tablespoon or two, about 2 tablespoons of this real butter. And the thing about real butter is, what is it usually made with? Where does butter come from? Cream, right? So my ingredients are really just going to be cream and salt when I'm looking at a butter. This one has some herbs and spices to it, so it'll provide that flavor. But that's to the contrary of something like one of those margarines. When you turn over the ingredient list of those margarines, what do you see? Partially hydrogenated oils, lots of things we can't really pronounce, lots of things you can't really even imagine in your pantry. Lots of things that maybe your grandparents didn't realize existed. So again, we're just trying to get back to the basics of cooking and using real food. So I did put just a little bit of butter, and when we're looking at only a half a cup per person at that meal, that 2 tablespoons of butter really isn't going to do a whole lot of damage. The last thing I'm going to do is add, not the last thing, the second to last thing I'm going to do is add the Parmesan cheese. Cheese is a staple with mashed potatoes, with baked potatoes. This is just a very low calorie, low fat way to have that cheesy flavor without adding a ton of calories to it. So I'm putting in a half a cup. We'll go ahead and mix that up. And the Parmesan cheese is going to add salt to it as well. So we won't need a lot of added salt here. Just stirring that up. It looks really good. Can you guys smell this yet? Woo! I always hear them say on TV they wish there was such a thing as smell-o-vision because they want everybody at home to be able to smell the smells here. Then I'm going to add some pepper. And I like to put the pepper in my hand so I can really see how much is going in. And this looks like about a teaspoon to me, so I'm just going to kind of spread that around, and then we'll stir it up. And pepper is just another one of those sodium-free ways to flavor what we're eating. I think we should even try it before we add any salt. We may find that we don't even need any salt. I'm going to add just a smidge more garlic. Who likes garlic? Oh yeah. Just make sure you have your gum, right? We're just going to add a little bit here. Stir that in. And then the very last thing we'll add are the chives. One other cool thing about keeping the skins on, especially with red potatoes, is it adds color to the dish. And we all know that color just is more fun. It makes our food look more appealing. And these chives are going to do the same thing. I'm just going to bunch these together, keeping my fingers curled up so I don't hit it. And then remembering to cut on that forward motion. And it's really in the wrist. So then you can be really quick with your knife. The faster you are with your knife, the easier it is to cook. So we're just going to add these chives in here and cut some of these a little bit bigger or smaller. Mix those in. These are looking good. All right. Let's try it out and see if we need much salt here. I don't think we need any added salt. So, everybody, ready to try? Make these for Thanksgiving? Yeah.